So these are the strings I'm going to be talking about today. Daddario EXL158, light gauge baritone, 13 through 62 is the gauges on these. And I just go into the string gauges real quick. It's a 13, 17 for the plain strings, 26, 36, 46, and 62. So right off the bat, this set of strings has 4 wound strings and only 2 plain strings, which is actually good. When you're tuning down to like C, B, basically when you're in baritone range or lower, usually a third plain string is just not very good, in my opinion. And of course, if you look up guys like 5 Finger Death Punch, I'm not a big fan of them, but you know, they're a good band overall, I guess. I don't know, there's just always something about it I didn't listen to. But if you look at their string gauges, both of those guys use wound third strings, because when you go over 18 or 19 gauge plain strings, in my opinion, they don't intonate very well. The tuning's just all over the place, and they feel bad on your fingers. So with this, if you look at the gauges, what they've done here is taken a 10 through 46, threw out the 10, and added a low 62 gauge. Makes sense? Which brings me to these strings. If you're a 7-string guy out there and you're looking for a good set of strings, buy these. Buy some plain 10s and throw on the high end of these, and you have a perfect 7-string set. I know a lot of 7-string guys complain that you know, 7-string sets that are already prepackaged are just garbage, because they'll be like 10 through 46 and then a 56. So the 56 is really loose in B. You need more like a 60, 62, something like that. These are perfect for that. And you're going to have a hell of a lot easier time finding a 10 gauge string than you are a 62. Because I know guys will go out and buy 10 through 46 and then buy single 62s. Of course, if you buy them offline, then yeah, you have an easy time finding them anywhere. Alright, so, but back to 6-string, because that's what I use, and that's what I think most people are going to buy these for, since it's a 6-string set. I've never tried these on a baritone, because I don't own a baritone, as most people don't. Whether, you know, most people who have a baritone don't even have a 6-string baritone, they have a 7 or 8-string baritone. Regular 6-string baritones are pretty much not nearly of them out there as people want to think. I can't even think if I've ever seen one real live. But anyways, they're designed for, if you do have a baritone, to have like a lighter feel. A lot of baritones have these 29, 30-inch scalings. Then they give you a set of like frickin', you know, 13 through 72 strings. So you have the long scale length, huge strings, you tune it to B, and it feels like it's going to break your hand. So these are more designed to throw on there and get a lighter feel, which I think makes sense. I used them on a 25.5 scale length guitar, and I think that's where a lot of people are going to use them, on 25.5 scale length and 24.75. So a lot of people are going to buy these to use for C, B, B flat standard, you know, drop C, drop B, that kind of stuff. So as far as the strings breaking in and stuff, just like most Daddarios or Daddario, they break in about 3 to 4 stretches. Boom, these things are locked in, you're good to go. I will say the low 62 usually takes wound strings longer to stretch in than it does plain strings. The low 62 you might have to stretch an extra 1 or 2 times than all the other strings. I have noticed that. They usually need about 5 or 6 stretches before they are, you know, stretched in. But once that's done, you know, you're good to go. As far as what tunings these are for, well, they're a baritone set. So a lot of people hear baritone and they automatically think B standard. Technically, B is not baritone by itself. It is a baritone tuning, but not by itself. Baritone is a range. So it's ranged C to A. So it's C standard, B standard, A standard, and of course B flat in there. But you know, most people don't. For some reason I don't see a lot of people use B flat, but it is baritone nonetheless. So these are good for C, and B. I wouldn't say A standard. Whether you have a 25.5 scale length or 24.7, I think these are just a little bit too light for A standard. I found these strings play best in B standard, of course. And C, they're, you know, they're not super heavy, but they are a little bit heavier. I think they play really well in C, but definitely B and like B flats where these things feel a lot better. So I would recommend them on a 25 scale length guitar for B and B flat, and C, of course. But if you've got a 24.75, I don't know about B flat. That would be more of like a personal thing you'd have to try, but definitely C and B they'll do, even on a Gibson scale length. As far as drop tunings, I've used these in drop C, drop B flat, and drop A. Not quite heavy enough for drop A in my opinion. The low 62 is not quite. If it was a 64, hell yeah. but the 62 is just a little bit too light. And of course, again, you might try them and say it's perfect, but I think they're just a little bit too light in my opinion. Drop C, they were super tight. I think that would, most people wouldn't like that. Drop B and drop B flats where they felt a lot better. Drop B, they had a nice, kind of heavy medium tension. Drop B flats where they had that nice, almost 10 through 46 kind of feel, like 10 through 46 in E. I'm comparing it to that. That's where they felt really good. I think that was a good drop tuning for them. No issues with breaking. I've used a couple sets of these. I haven't used a lot of them, and I haven't had them on my guitar for like months at a time, only because I mostly bought them just because I've seen them forever, wanted to try them, bought them, and I was like, well, I'll do a review on them too. But, I haven't used them. I used a similar set, 12 through 60. I had those on my guitars for months upon months upon months, and they worked great, and the only difference between those and these is a couple strings are just gauged up a little bit. So other than that, any questions you have about the strings or any other strings that you have, I have some other videos up. Look through, and if you see the strings you're wondering about, watch the video. If not, contact me, because chances are I've used them before. I don't have a lot of time to make a ton of videos back to back, but I've used so many brands of strings and so many gauges. There was a time where I just sat and tried every tuning from E all the way down to like G flat, and same with drop tunings, all the way down from drop D to drop G flat. So I tried different gauges and strings. I added 2 or 3 sets of strings together to make my own sets, all kinds of stuff. So any questions, feel free. To me, that's what these are up for. Not really for me to ramble on about how I like them, but just to kind of give you a little bit of heads up before you buy the product or before you go stringing up your guitar. Guitars, are something that, is precious to a lot of people. I know most guitarists love their guitars. If you're a guitarist, I don't think you're going to say, I don't give a shit if my guitar breaks or not. Most people are going to they're going to watch a couple videos before they go and take their beloved SG or Les Paul or Telly and tune it down to A standard with 13 through 72 strings or something like that. They're going to want to hear a little bit about it and see what's the best idea. So that's fine. Again, thanks guys.